You did it to me again on your way out. One word breathed through the keyhole, and then off you strolled into the dark before you'd so much as touched the handle. It curls, you said, and shut the door in my face. I've carried those 2 words round for 7 days like a stone in my shoe. So, a current makes a field, and the field curls. Curls how? Round what? And can I count it?
I can, and I mean to, coin for coin. But let me stand the old ground up first, since tonight grows straight out of it. 3 nights we spent on charges that felt a field. Last time a charge that moved felt a sideways shove, and closing up, I let slip that a moving charge does the twin trick besides. It makes a field of its own. Tonight the field it makes.
You'd already flashed me its calling card too, and I let it slide right past. Ørsted's compass. You tossed it over your shoulder last week, run a current down a wire near a compass, and the needle swings. I nodded along like a good student, but I never asked the one thing worth asking. Swings which way? Toward the wire, I'd have said without a blink, though you've got that look on you again.
Trust that instinct. It's the right one tonight. And it's worth knowing the man wasn't even hunting for it. He had a wire and a compass out for something else entirely. The needle happened to sit nearby, and it twitched when he closed the circuit. The kind of accident that only lands on someone paying attention. Go and watch the same bench yourself before you commit to anything.
Set it up for me then, and I'll say my guess out loud so you can knock it flat. I lay a compass on the table, run a straight wire above it, switch the current on. Now, if the wire simply tugs the needle the way a charge tugs, the way every push I've met for a month tugs, which way should the needle jump? Say the guess before you see it, that's the rule.
So hold to it, and put your money down before you see a thing. A charge would grab that needle and haul it straight along the line joining the two, reach across the little gap and pull, the way a scrap of iron gets dragged bodily toward a magnet. Picture the needle if the wire obeyed the rules you've been taught these 4 weeks. Where does it end up pointing?
Straight at the wire, or straight away from it, but along that line, one or the other, dead on the join between them. That's every shove I own. A charge sprays its field out in spokes, straight from itself, and anything in reach gets thrown along a spoke. So the needle ought to snap round and aim right at the wire, like iron leaping for a magnet. There's my flag. House on it.
Down it goes then. Switch it on and watch what the needle actually does with itself. It swings, right enough, but it does not point at the wire. Not a single degree toward it. It sets itself square across, crosswise to the wire, lying at a clean right angle to the line between them, as though it would far rather wrap around the thing than ever reach for it.
Crosswise? Oh, no. I wanted spokes, and I've been handed a needle that won't so much as glance at the wire. It turns its shoulder to it, sits there at a dead right angle, aiming off around the wire instead of at it, like a compass that's decided the wire isn't worth the courtesy of a look. Every field I've ever met reaches straight out. This one refuses to reach at all. It circles.
And nothing about that needle makes a scrap of sense until you drop the electric picture and let the field do what it does. A charge sitting still sprays its field outward, spokes off a hub. True enough for a resting charge.
But the moment charge starts to run, the entire picture tips right over.
And with it goes everything you thought you knew. A current is not a charge parked there. It's charge on the run, and the field a running charge lays down does not point out from the wire. It wraps around it.
So the needle was telling me the plain truth all along, and I was the one mishearing. It sat crosswise because crosswise is where the field genuinely points, right there at the needle's spot, not out along a spoke, but around, tangent to a circle drawn about the wire. The compass wasn't playing coy with me, it lay down flat along a field line, the same as the iron filings did a week ago.
Scatter the filings and see it drawn for your own eye. Iron on a card, the wire poked straight up through the middle, a tap of the finger, and they don't spray into a starburst.
So which way do they jump, if not straight out?
They fall into rings, circle wrapped round circle, one nested inside the next, like ripples on a pond caught and frozen in place, or the grain of a plank curling round a knot. Closed rings, every one, and running nowhere.
Rings nested round the wire. And here's a little bell gone off in my head. You made me shelve something last week. The magnets' field lines, the ones that closed up and bit their own tails, loops with no beginning and no end anywhere. And now the current's field turns out to be rings as well. The loops have come back around. Is that the same loop, wearing a fresh coat?
Hold that bell right where it's ringing. It pays out enormously later on, though not in full tonight. Plant it for now. The magnet's lines close into loops, and a current winds its field into rings that close, and neither owns a loose end to be found. Something deep stands behind that family likeness. But first, let me hand you the plain shape of this field before we set about counting it.
Then I'm ready for it. I've got rings round the wire, nested like tree grain. But a ring has two ways round it, hasn't it? Clockwise or counter, looking down the length of the wire. So which way do they actually turn? Something must settle it, or the field's a coin toss, and I've never yet caught nature flipping a coin over a thing like this.
It doesn't, and the rule sits in one hand, your right one. Make a loose fist, thumb sticking out, and point that thumb along the wire the way the current runs. Now look at your curled fingers. They wrap right round the wire, and that is the way the field circles, the full loop of it. Thumb for the current, curled fingers for the field. That's the grip, and it will not fail you.
Thumb along the current, fingers curling the way the field runs. Let me check I've not got it inside out. If the current heads away from me, straight into the page, my thumb points into the page, and my fingers curl round, clockwise, as I stare at the back of my hand. So the field circles clockwise about the wire, seen from behind. Reverse the current, and every ring flips with it. The whole carousel spins the other way.
Right way up that one. And mind it isn't last week's hand rule, though you're pressing the same hand into service. Last time your fingers ran along the motion, and your thumb stood for the sideways shove.
The same hand, and yet you swap its meaning week to week.
Root and branch, yes. Tonight the thumb is the current. The fingers are the field. One palm, two jobs. Keep the pair straight in your head, and the hand will never once lie to you about a direction.
Before I trust it too far, let me press on the thing itself. Is this field genuinely out there, the way you swore the electric one was? Or is it half a fiction, a story I tell to explain a twitching needle? Because a compass is a made thing. Maybe the rings are merely the compass's opinion of the wire, and not a real condition of the empty space around it.
A fair shove, and here's the answer. It is every bit as real as the electric one. Take the compass clean away, and the field is still there, filling the space. An arrow at every point, whether or not a needle sits in it to be swung. The needle merely reads what's already there. Bring a moving charge through that space with no compass anywhere, and it feels the field's grip directly, swung sideways by rings no eye has ever seen. The compass and the filings are merely two readers, each holding a different instrument up to the one real thing. The rings don't need an audience.
The rings don't need an audience. Good, that settles it. It's the same real carpet as before, only wound into hoops instead of sprayed into spokes. So now the part I actually need, because a heading's no use to me without a strength. How hard does this field push? And how does it fade as I back off from the wire? It must fade. Everything fades. But give me the flavour of it.
2 dials set the strength, so take them one at a time. The first is easy, and you'll call it cold. Crank up the current, and the field climbs right alongside. More current, stronger rings, in flat proportion. Double the flow down the wire, and you double the field at every point around it.
That one I'd have guessed in my sleep. More push in, more push out.
Cold, just as I said, and right. That dial behaves itself. It's the second, the fading with distance, where I'd like you to reach back a fortnight and fetch me the answer yourself.
The counting night, of course. You stood 3 shapes side by side and made me watch them fade 3 separate ways. The lone point charge fell off steeply as the square of the distance. The endless flat sheet didn't fade one bit, and the long straight wire of charge sat between the two. It dropped off as one over the plain distance. Gently. Twice as far and merely half the push.
There's the one I was fishing for. Now lay this new field down beside it. A long, straight, current-carrying wire. A line of charge, only the charge is running now instead of sitting, and its magnetic field fades in that very same gentle way, as one over the distance from the wire, never the steep square. Step twice as far off to the side, and the field drops to a half, not to a quarter.
So it's the shape doing the work again, isn't it? The same lesson you drilled into me a fortnight back. The wire runs on forever in its own direction, so the rings can spread out sideways alone, opening like ripples widening round the wire, one direction's worth of room to fan into. And that stinginess buys the soft fade. Twice as far, half the push, because the rings never get to thin any faster than that.
And that stinginess is the real secret of it, an idea that carries clean across from a fortnight ago. So here's your field of a straight wire in 3 strokes. It circles the wire in closed rings. Your right thumb along the current picks which way they turn. It grows with the current, and it dies off as one over the distance. No spokes anywhere, nothing pointing outward, everything running round.
And once I truly sit inside that picture, it strikes me as a faintly absurd way for a field to spend its days. The electric field at least had ambition. It sprayed outward, it went somewhere, it ran off to find a charge to land on and call the day done. This one does none of that. It circles the wire, closes on itself, and goes round and round, forever.
And yet it can do nothing else. An electric line needs a charge to die on. A magnetic ring has no such place to head for, so it does the one thing left it. Closes up and circles.
Nowhere to die, so it just keeps wheeling round?
Endlessly, yes. But you're turning something over there, under the joke. Say the rest of it out, because it matters a good deal more than it sounds coming off your tongue.
It's only, imagine keeping a field like this on the payroll. It turns up every morning, makes a tremendous whirling fuss round the wire, and by the end of the day it's gone nowhere and delivered precisely nothing that anyone could point to. A field that goes in circles for a living and calls it a career. That's my wire's magnetic field, apparently. All motion and not one scrap of destination.
Deliver nothing, perhaps. But that aimless circling is about to become a superpower, so watch closely. A field that goes nowhere, that does nothing but wrap round and round, is a field you can walk the entire way around and arrive back where you set off. And anything you can walk clean around, you can tally as you go. That circling you're mocking is the doorway to tonight's law.
Before you swing that door, cash me one more promise first. Last week you set 2 current-carrying wires side by side and made me admit they'd push on each other, each standing in the other's field. But you flat refused to say which way. Pull together or shove apart? A question for the night we draw the field a current makes, you told me. Well, we've drawn it now, so out with it.
Fairly caught. Here's your answer. Run both currents the same way, side by side, and the 2 wires draw together. Reverse one so they run against each other, and the pair shove apart. Same way currents attract, opposite way currents repel.
There's the payoff I was owed. And can you tell me why?
I can. Each wire simply sits in the other's curling field and takes last week's sideways shove. And when you work the hands through, the geometry lands them exactly there.
A tidy little law to pocket, and pleasingly upside down from the balloons. 2 like charges get flung apart. Two like currents, both running the same heading, pull together. The rhyme I'd have bet on is broken outright. Running alongside a fellow in the same direction draws you in, where sitting still beside him with the same sign throws you off. Motion flips the sign of the sociability.
A neat inversion, and worth the aside. But I promised you counting, and now we've come to it. So set the two wires down and come back to one lone wire, its rings wrapped round it. I mean to do to this field precisely what we did to the charges field a fortnight back. You remember the move well enough. We drew a made-up shape, and we took a tally through it.
I remember it cold. You wrapped an imaginary bag round the charge and had me count the field lines stabbing out through its skin, and the tally came to the charge trapped inside, however badly I crumpled the bag. Flux out, charge in. But that was a surface, a closed bag, with an inside and an outside to it. What's the matching move for a field that only goes round in rings? There's no inside, nothing to wrap.
So stop hunting for one. Walk instead. Last time you drew a closed surface and counted what pierced its skin.
And now, what? I set off walking round something?
The wire, yes. Draw a closed loop of your own choosing, looping once about it, and rather than counting what pokes through a skin, you walk that loop the entire way round, keeping a running tally of how the field pushes you along as you step.
Slower there, please. Something's already snagging. I'm walking my little loop, one pace at a time, round the wire. At each step, the field's got some direction there, tangent to its ring. And you want me to ask, at every pace, how much of the field is pointing along the way I'm walking? And to add up that much, step after step, the whole circuit round.
That's the tally, near enough. At every step, you ask the one question. How much of the field runs along my stride, right here? And you add up that much, pace after pace, until you close the loop and stand back where you began. Where the field pushes with you, you add it in. Where it pushes against you, you take it off. The grand total, once you're home, wears a name. We call it the circulation.
But hold on, the field pushes ME along? I'm no charge. I'm a fellow out for a stroll with a tally sheet and a pencil. Nothing's shoving me anywhere. So this push-along is only a way of talking, isn't it? You mean I read the field's arrow at each step, see how much of it lies along my path and jot that down. It's a survey of the field around a ring, not a real shove on my knees.
Exactly right, and I'm glad you stopped me on it. Nothing lays a finger on you. You're taking down the field's own leaning along your path, step by step, the way a surveyor walks a boundary and notes the lie of the land.
So all that talk of a push was a crutch then?
Just so, and now I kick it away. Push along is my shorthand for the part of the field that runs your way. Strip the shove out of it, and what's left is a pure accounting of the field around a closed ring.
Good. Now I can hold it without flinching. And I'll admit it sounds every bit as daft as the bag did at first. I'm walking an imaginary loop I drew in thin air, jotting down an invisible field's lean at each invisible step, and you're about to tell me this heap of make-believe adds up to something solid and real about the world. Two fictions stacked, all over again. Go on, ambush me.
Gladly. And it's the twin of the trap from last time. Walk your loop round the wire, add that circulation up the full circuit, and the total you land on hangs on one thing alone. Not the field's strength here or there along the path, not how wide or how wild a loop you happen to draw. On the current threaded through your loop, and on nothing else in the world.
Let me try to break that then, the way I went at the bag. Say I draw a great sloppy loop, miles across, wandering all over the room, and then a neat little circle hugging the wire tight. Same current running down the middle of both. You're telling me I walk those two wildly different paths and the circulation comes out the same? The big ugly one and the tidy small one, dead level.
Matched to the last decimal. And reason it the way you reasoned the crumpled bag. The great sloppy loop is longer, granted. far more paces to add up.
Longer means a bigger tally, surely. My instinct's up on its feet again.
And that instinct walks you off the cliff. Out where the loop strays, far from the wire, the field it's tallying is feeble, faded off with the distance. The tight little circle is short, few paces, yet it hugs in close where the field runs fierce. Long and weak, set against short and strong.
That's the same bargain the crumpled bag struck, isn't it? All those dents bought more skin to count, but every out was matched by an in, and it came to nothing new. Here, the extra wandering buys more paces, but each pace counts for less, and it washes out to the identical total. The loop's shape is a red herring all over again.
Exactly so. The wandering never bought a thing. Now let me push your luck the other way, just as I did with the bag. You've been looping around the wire, the current threaded through your loop. Move the wire out. Draw your loop off to one side, so the wire runs past it on the outside, not through it. The current pierces your loop nowhere at all. Walk that loop and tally. What's the circulation now?
Well, it can't come to nothing, surely. The wire's right there, a whisker outside my loop, pouring its field across the entire path. On the near side, the arc that faces the wire, the field is strong and sweeping me along. I'm racking up a real tally for a good stretch of the walk. So I'll say it comes to something. Less than a full wraparound, maybe, but not zero, not with all that field pouring past.
The near side gets a real shove. You're right about that stretch of it. But walk the full loop, not the near arc alone. On the near side, the field sweeps you along, and your tally climbs, true.
And the far side of the walk undoes it.
Back to nothing. All of it. Coming round the far arc, the field, still circling that outside wire, sweeps the other way, against your steps, and takes back precisely what it lent you on the near.
It lends on the near side and collects on the far, and the book's shut at nothing. Because the wire sits outside, its rings sweep through my loop one way where I walk in close, the opposite way where I've come round the back, and the two arcs cancel each other off. The same as the outside charge that's stitched in one wall of the bag and out the other. No current caught inside, no circulation. The loop only hears what it encircles.
Deaf to everything outside, all ears for what threads through. The exact mirror of a fortnight ago. A current threaded through your loop. Full circulation every time, whatever shape you walked. A current running outside it. Nothing whatsoever, however close it passes. So gather the night into a single sentence for me. What has all this walking and tallying quietly hardened into?
Oh, it's the counting law again, isn't it? The very same law from the electric nights, turned inside out and stood up on its edge. Back then, I wrapped a closed bag round the thing and counted what sprayed out through the skin, and it handed me the charge sealed in. Now I walk a closed loop round the wire and count what sweeps me round, and it hands me the current threaded through. Flux and charge become circulation and current. Out and in becomes around and through. It's the twin, head to tail.
To the bone. That's it exactly. One law wraps a surface round a charge and counts the lines streaming out. Its brother walks a loop round a current and counts the field sweeping round.
Out through a skin or round a loop. One idea read two ways.
Just so, and no more than that. Flux out gives the charge within. Circulation around gives the current through. And this second shape carries a name of its own. Ampere's law.
So that's the third of them now, isn't it? I've been collecting these as we go, like a boy with stamps. The first was the bag and charge law from the electric nights. Count the lines out, read off the charge in. The second was last week's, the one about no lone poles, every magnetic line a closed loop. And now this, walk the ring, read off the current. 3 great laws in my pocket. How many am I collecting in the end?
4 in all. 4 great laws that, laced together, hold every last scrap of electricity and magnetism there is. You've three of them now. How charge sources the electric field, how magnetism owns no sources at all, and tonight, how a current stirs up its circling field. One stays hidden, and it is next week's entire business.
Still one hiding in the dark then.
Waiting on you to reach it. And taken as a set, all four are what the world will come to call Maxwell's four.
4. And I've 3. I'll keep the 4th seat warm. But before I run this new one, tell me plainly what the pair of them are for.
They hand you the two great things a field can ever be tied to. Poke out through a surface and you finger the sources, the charges the lines are born on. Sweep round a loop and you finger the currents, the flows that stir the rings up. One names what makes an electric field, the other what makes a magnetic one. Now put your new tool to work, the way you put the old.
That's just where I was headed. Back a fortnight, the counting law ran backwards for me. I knew the charge. I drew a clever round bag, and out fell the field strength, near enough for free. Can ampere run the same direction? I know the current in my wire, plain as day. Can walking a loop hand me back the field, without my grinding away at it pace by miserable pace?
It can, and it's the same trick with the same catch. So let me name the catch before you oversell it, the way you very nearly did last time. Ampere's law is always true. Every loop, every current, no exceptions, anywhere, ever. What it is not always is useful. It becomes a shortcut only when you're canny enough to walk a loop where the field lies dead simple, and even the full way round.
So the bargain's the same as the bags. True no matter what, easy only when I'm shrewd about the path. Which means the skill lives in the choosing of the walk, and the good choice is sitting right in front of me, because you've handed me the symmetry on a plate. Round a straight wire, the field is one strength all the way round any circle centered on it, and pointing along that circle at every step. So I walk a circle.
Dead centered on the wire, and watch how that guts the labor. The field is one single strength clear round the loop, and it points along your steps at every point, never fighting you, never skimming off sideways.
One strength, one heading, the entire lap, hardly any adding at all.
Next to none. So the circulation is simply that one strength times the distance round your circle. One value times one loop length. No jumble of different pushes to add up pace by weary pace.
And ampere says that tally equals the current threaded through, so I stand the two against each other and turn it round. The field strength is the current, shared out over the distance round my circle. Widen the circle and it's a longer way round, the same current spread thinner over more length, which is the field going weak as I step outward from the wire. There's my 1 over distance, falling straight out of the counting.
And it agrees to the letter with the fade I handed you earlier. A fortnight's promise, and tonight's law shaking hands in the middle of the room. So the circle round the wire earns its keep, the way the round bag did for the electric count. It finds no truer answer than a wild, wandering loop would. It simply lets the arithmetic fold down to a single, clean stroke.
So the circle isn't doing the physics, it's doing the paperwork. The same as the sphere last fortnight. The law holds just as hard on my ugliest wandering loop. The circle merely fills the tally sheet in without making me sweat a drop for it. Symmetry never once changes what is true. It picks the walk that does my arithmetic for me and lets me go home for supper. That's a humbler job than I'd have credited the circle with.
The same porter carries both laws' luggage. Keep that. And here's where the choosing of the loop turns from a convenience into something with real teeth.
Sharp how? It's been nothing but a convenience so far.
Picture a field that isn't tidy at all. A lumpy tangle of wires, currents every which way. The field a different strength and heading at each spot on any loop you draw. Ampere holds there flawlessly. But the walk becomes a brute to add up, pace by pace, and hands you nothing quick.
True, but useless, in other words. The lumpy loop all over again. which means Ampere isn't some universal machine that spits out fields on demand. It's a machine that only pays off where nature's already been kind enough to make the field simple. The wire's kind. And I'd wager you're about to show me one more shape that's kind, because you don't wind a coil of wire round the room for nothing.
I don't waste a good coil. So take the solenoid. Remember it, the wire wound into a long tube of loops. I claimed a while back that it makes a strong, even field down its middle. Now I can prove it to you, not just assert it, and with the very tool in your hand. And mind, the tighter you wind the turns, the more you pack into each stretch of the tube, the stronger and smoother that inner field grows. Draw an Ampere loop that runs straight down the inside of the tube, out through the wall and back along the outside. A long, thin rectangle threading the coil.
One long side buried inside the tube then, the other out in the air beyond it. All right, so I walk that rectangle and tally the field along each of its 4 sides in turn. And Ampere tells me the total equals the current threaded through the rectangle, which is however many turns of the coil my rectangle happens to fence in, each one carrying its current. Am I setting it up right?
Exactly so. Now walk the 4 sides. The long side inside the tube runs along that strong, straight field, so it racks up a hearty tally.
That's the one side earning its keep, and the other 3?
Barely a whisper between them. The 2 short ends cut across the tube, but the field there points down the axis, square to your steps, so it contributes nothing as you cross. And the far long side, out beyond the coil? What must the field be doing out there?
Beyond the coil, it has to be next to nothing. You told me the outside goes weak and slack, most of the field herded down the core. So that far side contributes near enough 0 to my tally, which leaves only the one strong inside stretch doing all the counting. And Ampere sets that equal to the current in all the turns I fenced. More turns, more current threaded, bigger field inside. That's the coil's full strength, dropping out of one rectangle.
And notice what fell out alongside it. The inside field doesn't depend on how far up the tube your rectangle sits, nor how fat you drew it. On the turns per length and the current, nothing more. Which is the law's own way of telling you the inner field is the same everywhere. Strong, straight and even, right down the core. You've just proven the uniform field you were handed on trust.
I like earning the thing for once, rather than swallowing it whole. So let me draw the coil's field in full. Now I trust the middle of it. Inside, one bold, straight field, marching straight down the axis, the same strength all along. Outside, weak, slack, spread thin. Strong within, feeble without. And that shape rings a loud bell from last week, doesn't it? I've seen those exact lines before.
So name them then. That's the ask. Stand back from the whole tube and follow one field line. It runs straight down the core, spills out one end, arcs round through the slack air outside, and dives back in the other end to close its loop. Strong at the 2 ends, a smooth field down the middle. Where have you met that picture, drawn line for line, before tonight?
Oh, that's a bar magnet. That's the iron filing picture from last week, to the letter. Field streaming out of one end, arcing over through the air, plunging back into the other. A straight field down the core, the 2 ends acting for all the world like poles. I've built a bar magnet out of nothing but a coiled wire and a current run through it. There's no lodestone in it anywhere, it's all current.
Not a scrap of iron needed anywhere, and yet a magnet you conjured out of moving charge alone. And now feel the thing a lodestone can never offer you. The bar magnet on your fridge is stuck being a magnet. It magnets away, day and night, and you cannot ask it to stop.
It can't be talked out of it. But mine's kept on a leash.
The shortest tether there is. This coil's magnetism hangs on the current running through it and on nothing else in the world. So what happens the instant you cut that current?
It just stops being a magnet. Flick the switch off and the field drops dead, all of it, on the spot. I've got a magnet with an off switch, a magnet I can summon when I want it and shut off the moment I don't. No lodestone can manage that. It hasn't a switch to its name. It's a magnet, whether you fancy it or not. Mine does as it's told. That's magnetism I can command.
That switchable magnet is the electromagnet, the reason the modern world leans on coils, not lodestones. A magnet that leaps to strength when you feed it current and falls dead when you starve it, that you dial fierce or gentle at a touch. No fridge magnet grants you a shred of that. You hold the reins entirely now. When it wakes, how hard it hauls, and the very moment it quits on your say-so.
And can I drive it fiercer still, short of winding on turns till doomsday? I've a hunch there's a cheat lurking here somewhere, some way to lean on the iron we spent all last week talking about.
There's the common cheat, and it's a strong one. Wind your coil round an iron core, a plain nail will serve, and your field wakes the iron's own countless tiny magnets, which swing into line and throw their weight in with yours. Same current, same turns, and the magnet leaps to many times its bare strength. The iron makes no field of its own here. It multiplies the one you brought.
And here's a second lever I've just spotted, sitting right beside the switch. If reversing the current flips every ring the other way, then it must flip the coil's field end for end too. Swap which end plays north and which plays south. So I don't merely get to switch the magnet on and off, I get to turn it around without laying a hand on it. Same coil, north and south traded, purely by reversing the flow.
Purely by reversing the flow, you've caught the other half of the command. On, off, and about face, all from the current alone.
3 levers, and every one of them just the current.
And now feel where that handful of levers hides in your house, because half your machines are quietly working them. Anything that grabs and lets go, or pushes and then pulls in time, is one of these coils, doing exactly what you just described.
Then let me go looking for them. The thing in a scrapyard that hoists a whole car on a whisker of current and drops it the instant they cut the juice. That's a giant electromagnet, isn't it? On to lift, off to release. Not a magnet that happens to be strong, a magnet that listens. And I'd guess the small ones are everywhere I never think to look, humming away under the lids of things.
They're everywhere once you start looking. The doorbell that clacks when you press it. The relay that lets a feeble current click a mighty one awake. The whir buried in a hard drive. The vast, chilled coils of a hospital scanner that map the inside of you without a single cut. The speaker cone pushing air at your ear. The trains that float clear above their rails. Every last one is the same trick underneath. A coil, a current, a bar magnet field you switch and flip. Wire wound into obedience.
And there's the motor's blood cousin, isn't it? Now I can line the two of them up. Last week, a coil sitting inside a field felt a shove and spun. The motor, the field, leaning on the current. Tonight, a coil makes a field all its own. The electromagnet, the current raising the field up. One coil, the 2 halves of last week's twinning, split off into a pair of separate machines.
2 machines grown from a single seed, and you can even braid them back into one. An electromagnet whose current you flip to and fro so it shoves and then hauls on the magnets around it in perfect time is how a real motor keeps turning without pause.
Making and feeling, wound into the one moving thing.
Married in a single spin. Nearly the sum of last week and this week, humming there in one small can.
I like that marriage. So let me take stock of the height I've climbed to tonight, because it's steeper than I reckoned at the door. I walked in with 2 bare words. It curls. And a compass that wouldn't look at a wire. I'm walking out able to raise a magnet, switch it on and off and around at will, and count the field of any current at all by walking a loop round it. That's a fat night's haul.
Before you carry all that out the door, though, one catch remains, and it's a real one. The law, the way I've laid it out tonight, has a quiet gap in its floor. It works without a flaw for a steady current, one that runs on unchanging, holding it up like solid ground. But hand it a current that's building up, shifting from one moment to the next, and it begins to stammer.
Show me where it trips its foot, because I can't yet see it. I've been walking loops round wires all night, and the law never once put a step wrong. What sort of current makes it lose its footing? One that's changing? Is that the new word? Everything tonight was steady, a river running level. So what goes wrong the very moment the flow starts to shift beneath me?
Picture the simplest broken circuit there is. A wire carrying current runs up to a small gap. Two metal plates facing each other with a slice of empty space between, no metal bridging across. Current flows in, piles charge higher and higher on the near plate and cannot leap the gap, while out beyond the far plate an equal current runs onward as though nothing were broken at all. Now ring that wire with your ampere loop, and the skin the loop bounds you can stretch two ways, straight through the wire or dipping down through the empty gap.
Ah, I feel the trap swinging open. My loop is the one loop round the one wire, so it ought to hand me one plain answer. But drape the skin so it slices the wire and a real current pierces it, charge flowing in metal. Drape it so it dips through the gap instead, and nothing pierces it at all. No wire there, no current threaded. One loop and two different answers, hanging on nothing but which skin I happen to stretch across it.
And there's the fracture laid open. The same loop, the same walk, the same circulation round the whole of it, and yet the current threaded through depends on a choice the law swore blind could never matter. At a charging gap, all at once it does. That's no hairline crack, that's the law caught telling two stories about one wire in a single breath. Something is plainly missing from the tally.
And already I can feel the shape of what must be hiding there. There has to be something crossing that bare gap that I'm not counting. Some ghost of a current haunting the empty space itself, standing in for the charge that never leaps across. Give me that, and the near skin and the far skin agree again, and the books shut level. Deny me it, and a law I trusted the whole night through is left contradicting its own self, which I'll not stand for.
There it is. The very thing the law forgot to count. A something in the gap that tallies as a current, though no charge ever crosses. That is the piece the law is short. But it isn't tonight's repair to make. It waits for a later night, and it belongs to Maxwell.
And you're at it again, dangling the treasure, then stepping back into the dark before my fingers can close on it. Fine, up on the shelf it goes, beside the other bright parcels you've refused to unwrap, the travelling ripple, the one force seen from two moving seats. But I'll tie a ribbon on this one, for a law I watched run clean all night turns out to have a hole in its boards, and the patch, apparently, enormous.
That's exactly the right handling for now. A doorway marked and not yet walked through. Because when we finally set that patch in place, it welds these separate laws of yours into one working machine, and out of that machine rolls a thing you would never once guess was crouching inside. But that is the final act, and it keeps. Tonight still holds one door of its own to open, and this one opens the other way entirely.
Swing it then. You've got me leaning toward it already. All evening we've run the traffic in one direction. A current sits there and makes a field, charge in motion writing magnetism into the space around it. So the door you've saved has to be that same traffic running backwards, a magnetic field making a current out of a wire. I can nearly hear it through the wood. Tell me I'm reading the shape of it right.
Dead on, and it's the strangest turn the whole course takes. You'd guess the tidy thing, of course. A current makes a magnetic field, so a magnetic field ought to make a current. Tit for tat, magnetism simply handing back what electricity once lent it. Fair, neat, and not quite what happens. Nature is seldom so even-handed as all that, and the way she balances this particular ledger is the surprise I mean to save whole for next week.
Then let me try the tame guess out loud, so you can knock it down properly. I'd have said, hold a magnet near a wire, and its field ought to drive a current along it, the way charge drove things all those nights ago. Sit the wire in the field and watch the current come. That's my guess, laid flat on the table. Where does it fall down?
On the stillness. That's where it topples. Lay a wire in the strongest, steady field you own, and hold the two of them dead still, neither one stirring, and nothing flows. Not a flicker, not a whisper of current. The field, sitting there in all its strength, does nothing at all. A steady field, however fierce, drives no current down a resting wire.
From a field that fierce, and the wire feels nothing at all. So a magnet just sitting there is dead to the wire, exactly as a still charge felt no magnetic shove last week. Then what on earth is left to wake a current, if the field itself, standing there in all its might, will not lift a finger to do it?
Something you have not met on any of these nights. A source with no object in it at all. No charge, no current, no solid thing sitting anywhere doing the sourcing. To hand you its name now would rob you of the finest surprise the whole course has left to give. That is the shock of what's coming, and it is as far along the road as I'll carry you tonight.
That pulls me up short where I stand. Every source I've had so far was an object I could point my finger at. A charge sourced the electric field. A current sourced tonight's magnetic one. Solid thing sitting somewhere doing the work. A cause you could weigh in the palm of your hand. And now you tell me the next one is no object whatever, nothing I could ever pick up. And then you step back into the dark before I can put a name to it. You'll make me wait for it, of course you will.
I will. And it carries Faraday's name, mind. The same lines of force man we've been drawing since the very first night. What it is, and how much of your world runs quietly on it, is next time's whole business, and none of it is tonight's.
Of course it would be him, the linesman, back from the very first night. Fine, up on the shelf with the rest of your parcels, and I'll keep my hands off it till you say. But I can see the shape of the 2 nights now, set plainly side by side. Tonight, a current makes a field. Next time, a field makes a current, somehow, by a road I can't yet lay for myself. The making runs both ways, field to current to field, the two of them feeding one another. That's very nearly a loop in itself.
Hold that thought loosely. It sits close to the secret of the final night, and I'll not have you spend it early. Let it stand for now as 2 halves facing each other across a table. Tonight, motion made a field. Next time, running that very motion backwards wakes motion in the charges, by a stranger road than you would ever think to lay for it. Tonight you learned the first half, entire. The second still waits. But the last word tonight is yours, the way it always is at the door.
It's mine, and I'll take it, though I'll not lay the night back out piece by piece, like a shopkeeper counting stock, since you watched me earn every scrap of it as we went. Here's the shape I'm carrying into the dark instead. I came in dead certain a current would fling its field out in spokes, the way a charge does, and I was wrong before you'd finished asking. It doesn't fling, it wraps. The field curls round the wire in closed rings, arriving nowhere, forever circling. And my compass knew that before I would let myself believe it.
The compass had it first. Finish us out then.
Then here's what I carry. That aimless circling turned out to be the entire trick. Because the field goes round, I could walk a loop around it and count what sweeps me along, and that count named the current threaded through. Ampere, the twin of the bag and charge law. Circulation around where the other had flux out. Then I coiled the wire and the rings added into a bar magnet I could switch on, off, and about face at a word. A law with one quiet hole still in its floor, waiting on Maxwell. And next time, the queerest source of all, no object anywhere in it, and you'll not let me name it till I've earned it. I'll be gnawing on that one all week. See you next time, once the field starts to change.